Mode.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us for today's first and only webinar. We have an awesome session planned for you, one that you will certainly enjoy. Before I do anything, can I just please ask if you can raise your hand to let me know that you can hear me loud and clear? Okay, I can see your hands have gone up. Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to put your hands back down now. Thank you. Um, okay, so as always, we would love to hear your feedback on Facebook. If you can jump on to facebook.com/WBECS, as you can see, that should be in your little chat box. There should be a link there. That would be great. There's lots of valuable updates that go on there. There's lots of cool chat that's happening, and you can see the feedback and seeing what lessons people are learning and taking away, and coaches all around the world. And please take the time to engage on that page. It's there as a resource for you guys to get as much out of it as you would like. So we are coming to the end of week 4 of the pre-summit. We have one more week left. Hopefully you guys are getting massive value from all these sessions. You've been able to attend a few of them. To give you an idea, so you're probably interested to know, but the average coach attends about 4 pre-summit sessions. So there's an interesting statistic for the day. Anyhow, I would like to introduce to you my very good friend, Michael Bungay Stania. Michael is an internationally acclaimed professional keynote speaker. He's a popular speaker at business and coaching conferences around the world, including International Coach Federation conferences, the OD Network, the International Association of Facilitators, the CSTD, and SHRM. He is the founder and senior partner of Box of Crayons, which is boxofcrayons.biz, B-I-Z, a company that helps people do less good work and more great work. Michael was the first Canadian Coach of the Year and is also a Rhodes Scholar. So I know Michael's got a super presentation planned for you today, and I don't want to take up any more time, so I'd like to hand over to my good friend Michael. Over to you, Michael.
Ben, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be back again at WBEX. It's fantastic. Ben, I am saluting you on behalf of all the coaches that are listening in here, because I know you're knackered, having been working like flat out for the last 2 weeks and more to keep this pre-conference session going, and I know there's another week to go, but you're doing a great job, Ben, so thank you, and it's very nice to be here. Thank you to all of you. I know, as Ben said, most coaches have come to one in about 4 or so of these pre-conference sessions. So the fact that you've chosen me as one of your 4 is kind of fantastic for me, and I'm really appreciative of it. I know you're busy, so it's great to make sure that you're here with me, and we're going to make this a really useful, practical 20, 25 minutes together. I want to give you some really good stuff. And of course, what I'm doing is I also want to prime the pump so that when and if you come to my June session, we'll be able to build on some of the good insights that I've shared here. Ben's done a nice introduction of me. I want to show you exactly what I look like, just so you get a sense of that. There I am. It's a bit of an old photo, a year or 2 old, but you can see just how extremely good looking I am. If you're on Facebook, that's great. You'll be making comments on the page Ben indicated. If you're Twittering, there's my my Twitter handle down there, so you're welcome to kind of speak whatever you want to say on Twitter about me and this presentation. And this presentation is all about embracing the dark side of coaching. And I think you're going to enjoy that. It may be a different take on coaching that you've been hearing so far. This is a little thing just to remind you that I'm speaking on June the 17th about the 5 unspeakable truths about coaching. I hope you're tantalized and curious about that. And let's get on with this to a useful webinar right now. Now, before I get into some of the content, I've got a good question for you, a good coaching question. Because we're all coaches here, right? So I should have some questions for you. It shouldn't be just a download of content. And here's the question. You're going to need pen and paper for this, so grab that if you haven't already. And the question is this: how distracted do you plan to be during this session? How distracted do you plan to be? And I want to give yourself a score between 1 and 7. 1 is absolutely fully distracted. I plan to have my email open. I plan to have my phone on. I plan to have people walking by so I can chat to them. I plan to have paperwork handy so I can get some real work done. Quite frankly, I'm planning on using Michael's teleconference right now as pleasant white noise to have in the background. That's a 1, okay? If you're giving yourself a 7, you're saying you plan to be fully focused during this session with me, fully focused. There you are. You've created a place of calm, you've turned off your phone, you've shut down your email. You're doing all that you can to be really present so that you can make the most of this session with me. It's only 20 minutes, so we want to squeeze real value out of it. Now, I don't mind what number you gave yourself. I'm all about you making the choice that you want to make. But what I'd suggest is if there's anything you want to do in your environment to give yourself the best chance to be as focused as you'd like to be, then why don't you just tweak stuff now? That may involve turning off a screen, putting stuff in a drawer, whatever it might be for you. Cool. Now, you saw my opening slide, Darth Vader, and this is all about embracing your inner Darth Vader. Why am I talking about this? Well, I'll tell you, this is one of my bugbears about coaching. Sometimes when we talk about coaching, it can feel a little bit like this, right? You got that da 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 da. It's kind of pastel-y, it's huggy, it's all about like I appreciate you, no, I really appreciate you, and it can all be, quite frankly, a little bit too saccharine, a little bit too sweet, a little bit too pastel-colored. And don't get me wrong, I think there is a real value for focusing on what is positive and what is working in our lives. I'm not against that at all. In fact, if you look at things like appreciative inquiry, which I know some of you will know, positive psychology coaching, which I know some of you will know about. I love Ben Dean's work on that and Robert Biswas-Adina's book, Positive Psychology Coaching. Positive deviance, some of you will have heard of that as an approach to change and evolution, which is extremely powerful. These are all fantastic change processes that work at an individual level and at a team level and at a corporate level. And their very foundation is focusing on what works. But if that's all you do, you lose something in the coaching. And that's what I really want to spend some time with. And quite frankly, one of the inspirations for me to think about this goes all the way back to Carl Jung. And some of you may have read some of Carl Jung's stuff. Some of you will have certainly heard of his name. One of the great quotes from Carl Jung that really rings true for me is this: the gold is in the dark. The gold is in the dark. That's powerful, isn't it? And I know instinctively that you already know that about your clients. One of the roles that you'll be doing with your clients is actually helping them face the dark, helping them step into the corners, into the shadows, and explore some of that mucky stuff with them. But this isn't actually now about your clients so much. This is really about you and about your gold and about you stepping into your dark and into your shadows to see what's there for the sake of becoming a more powerful coach, for the sake of better serving your clients and the people you want to have impact with, the people that you want to do great work with, and for, quite frankly, for you to become a more complete, whole, powerful person. Another quote from Jung, and I love this, it's extremely powerful, is, I'd rather be whole than be good. I'd rather be whole than be good. And I think that can really resonate, right, around the fact that for so many of us, and I definitely stick my hand up and admit this to be true about myself, we've spent many years trying to be good, right? We get messages from early on about what good is and what bad is, and it becomes pretty clear to us that being good is often a better payoff than being bad. So we kind of shovel the stuff that's not so great into the shadows, and we carry on being good as long as we can. And, I'm one of those people for sure. I've got an A-type personality. I want to be liked by people. But I also realize that some of the really interesting work is to go back, integrate some of that darker, muckier stuff, and actually bring that into who I am so I become a more complete person. Because as a more complete person, I'm better able to serve my clients in part because I'm better able to not be triggered by my clients, and I'm able to be more courageous with those that I serve, more provocative with those that I serve. So I want to share with you in the time that we have, and I know this is just to whet your appetite, but I want to share with you a model that I've found particularly useful. Some of you will know this already, but many of you won't have come across this, and I think it's one of the most powerful models that I use and I teach when I go, particularly when I go into organizations to teach them about the dynamics about how best to work with people. This model can really help you. And it is something called the drama triangle. Created some years ago by Dr. Stephen Karpman. You can see his name down there on the bottom of the slide. And its roots lie in transactional analysis, TA. Some of you will know TA. It's the school of thought that gives us the language and the concepts of parent-child relationships and adult-to-adult relationships. And I'm not sure about you, but when I've tried to read TA, transactional analysis work, I haven't really understood it all. I mean, I've understood some of it for sure, but I've found it difficult to understand how I can take the TA concepts and actually use them usefully with my life and with my clients' lives. And what I love about the drama triangle is it is a practical translation and adaptation of the TA concept. So what I wanted to do was share with you some of the basic dynamics of the drama triangle. And I think you'll find this useful. When we get together again on June 17th, we're going to go deeper into the drama triangle and explore it a little further, along with those 5 secrets, those 5 unspeakable truths about coaching. But you'll get a good taste for it right now. So here's what Karpman says. He says that in any dysfunctional relationship, and quite frankly, all relationships have moments of being dysfunctional, and all relationships are dysfunctional more often than you would think. 3 different roles play out. 3 different roles play out. You can see that they're symbolized by those letters there on the screen. Let me take you through each one of these 3 different roles. The first one, the V, stands for victim. Now, you can guess what a victim looks like and sounds like. You know, it's the, oh, my life is so hard. Oh, it's so difficult. Oh, it's not fair. Oh, they did this to me, and they did that to me, and they're doing this to me now, and I can't do anything about it. Now, here's the thing you need to know about the victim role and all the other roles, the other 2 roles here as well. And it is this. There are some real benefits to playing this role. That's right, I said benefits. And if you think about it for a moment, you can guess what those benefits might be. You attract help. You feel that you have no responsibility, so you don't have to do anything. You're a little beacon for rescuers, so you have people hovering around you going, can I help you? Can I fix you? There's a way that you actually attract attention like that whilst having no responsibility. Because how can you have responsibility? None of it's your fault. It's all their fault. So there are some real benefits to playing the drama triangle, the victim role in the drama triangle here. But of course there are disadvantages as well. There's a price you pay for playing the victim role. What's that price? Well, I know you already know this, but let me just articulate what's probably going through your head, which is, along with no responsibility comes the feeling of no power. You feel stuck because you can't do anything. You feel like you have no control, no ability, no option to engage. And people don't like you. You know, quite frankly, who likes a whining whiner? Nobody. And this is going to be important to you as coaches, and you'll see why in a minute. You know, you get all these annoying rescuers coming in and jumping out and insisting that they help you when, quite frankly, you don't even want to be helped. So you've got a sense of the victim role there, okay, and how that plays, the benefits and disadvantages of playing the victim role. Let's go to the P. Some of you may have guessed what the P stands for. The P stands for persecutor. And if the physical state of the victim is kind of in a swoon with the hand up against the forehead looking pathetic, the physical state of the P, the persecutor, is a finger waggler. So you know what that looks like and sounds like. It is the bully. It is the micromanager. That's the more subtle version of the persecutor. And you can guess also why there are some advantages to playing that role. What are the advantages? Well, you feel better than everybody else. Quite frankly, you're surrounded by idiots. You're the only one who can do things right around here. You get to be cathartically angry and superior at people. You get to shout at people, perhaps. You get to go, I'm the only one who knows what's going on around here. But there are disadvantages, of course, to playing the persecutor. The persecutor is, first of all, they take on a lot of work. Because they don't trust anybody, they end up having to do everybody else's work for them. It's exhausting. And it's lonely. Because let's face it, who wants to work for a persecutor? The answer is a big, fat nobody. So when you are engaging with a persecutor, people are going to be doing the minimum possible. Victim, persecutor, you get those two roles. Let's talk about the third one, and this is one that's going to ring bells for many of you. It's the rescuer. What does the rescuer look like? Well, they look like, and it sounds like somebody who jumps in and says, don't worry about it, don't fight, don't argue, I'll sort it, I'll fix this, I'll make it happen, leave it to me. Now, there are advantages to playing the rescuer, for sure. You feel busy. You are busy. You feel like you're indispensable. You feel like you're the only one who gets it. You feel like you're the only one who has a heart. You feel like a martyr because you're putting it all out and you're asking for nothing in return. So there are real advantages to playing the rescuer role. But what are the disadvantages? Well, quite frankly, the primary one is you're not appreciated, because actually both victims and persecutors start to find rescuers pretty annoying after a while. And the real crucial nail in the coffin for the rescuer role is that it perpetuates this triangle. Here's a way of framing that in a way I think you'll find powerful. Some people say that victims create rescuers. You know, you have a victim and then a rescuer shows up to save the day. In fact, what I think is a more powerful way of recognizing that rescuers create victims. Rescuers create victims. Now, we are not one of these roles inherently. This is contextual. You get triggered to playing these roles. And why you need to know about being triggered is because when you're being triggered and you move into playing one of these roles, this is not you at your best. This is not you showing up in the full, complete, smart, whole, creative, engaging way that you can. Somehow you're playing out patterns of behavior that are less than you at your very best. And so what's useful is to start understanding what the patterns are of behavior and the patterns of being triggered are. Now, we all have a default role. We all have a default role, a role that we go, this is the role I play most often. But the truth is you play all of these roles all of the time. You know, I'm going to give you an example of that. I'm going to make up a conversation that I didn't have just before we went online with Ben, okay? This is pretend, it's fiction, but it could be happening, okay? I get on the line with Ben and I'm like, Ben, what's going on? I've been trying to get online for the last 10 minutes and you're late to the call and this is ridiculous. And I'm trying to be a good faculty member here for you and you're slack and you're not doing anything, right? So you can guess what role I'm playing there. I'm playing the persecutor, right? Ben immediately moves to the victim role. It's so hard, you don't understand. I've been working for the last 3 weeks to make this thing happen. I'm doing 20 hours a day, and I don't get any appreciation from any of my partners, and it's all down to me. And the person who is helping me out, she's a bit unreliable, and. So what do? I leap to the rescuer role. I go, oh, don't worry about it. Look, just give me the controls of the thing. I'll set this up, and I'll sort this out. I'll even do the introduction. You don't even need to do any of that. Okay, I've moved to rescuer mode. Then what does Ben do? He jumps to persecutor mode. He's like, what are you doing? Right? You seem to think that you can just come in and take over just because I'm 5 minutes late to the call. This is ridiculous. This is typical of the arrogance of you Canadian coaches. You know, you think you're so great. You think you can control everything. And you know, then I moved to victim mode. It's like, I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to be a good participant here, and Ben doesn't give me any. So you can see how you can bounce all around this drama triangle in an instant. In fact, you can do it even faster than that. Watch this. Think of the people you're coaching. Think of the most annoying person that you're currently coaching, the most annoying person you engage with. Right, you can feel that, can't you? And in an instant, You had that little rush of anger, frustration. That's the persecutor. You had a little rush of victimness. Oh, it's so hard. I'm trying so hard. It's so difficult. I just don't seem to be able to make the breakthrough. I'm stuck in this pattern. Right, that's the victim mode. Then there's rescue. I'll just keep trying. I'll keep asking better questions. I'll keep putting it out there. I'll kind of open my veins and bleed into the ground to try and make this work. In an instant, you can see how you can be playing all three of these roles at once. And here's where the power of this model lies, is that very quickly you start to see a lens of how do you get triggered, and how does that not serve you and not serve the relationship that you're in that's triggered you, because neither of you are now performing in the whole creative way of you at your very best. So part of the strategies here and part of the insights is about, well, how do I break this pattern? Because some of you might be thinking, well, this is depressing. Am I going to spend my whole life bouncing around this drama triangle? And quite frankly, the answer is yes, you are going to spend your whole life bouncing around this drama triangle. But if you're lucky, you're going to spend more time recognizing that you're in the drama triangle and more time pulling you out of the drama triangle. Now, I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. I want you to think hard about this. When you think of those three roles, which is the role you most readily identify with? If you had to pick one of those to guess that it would be your default role, which of those roles do you think it might be? You might even want to write down an R, a P, a V, depending on which one it is for you. And here's my bet. I bet you wrote down rescuer. Well, not all of you, but probably 95% of you wrote down rescuer. It's such a strong, such a powerful role for all of us in the coaching world to identify with. And you know what? The rescuer, it sounds just a little bit better than victim or persecutor. But quite frankly, it is equally as dysfunctional as the other two roles. Equally as dysfunctional. It looks like a gilded mask. It looks like you're doing a good thing being a rescuer. But in fact, it's not a powerful role at all. It's just as dysfunctional, and it continues to perpetuate the drama triangle. Behind that gilded mask, as you can see, is still the black heart. You know, behind that gilded mask is still that Darth Vader mask, another mask. So one of the things that we're going to do when we get into the next conference call on June 17th, the 5 Unspeakable Truths About Coaching, is we're going to go deeper into this drama triangle and talk about different ways of breaking the pattern. Now, you can guess what some of those are immediately, and quite frankly, understanding the model is the start, and in some ways the most powerful way of starting to break this. Mindfulness about your behavior is one of the key ways of starting to break the pattern. And one of the things that I might leave you with is an understanding of this, which is you've identified the role that you think you play most often, the default role. Perhaps it's rescuer, as it will be for many of us. That would be mine as well, by the way. Now I want you to think about, what is the role you play least often? What's the role you play least often? And here's what I'd offer up to you. I'd offer up the suggestion that the role you play least often is the role you get triggered by most easily. I'd probably identify persecutor as the role that I played least often. And for sure, when I meet a strong persecutor, I spend a lot of time bouncing between rescuer and victim and rescuer. It happens to me all the time. So understanding that is powerful. But here's another twist on this. You may play it least often, but my bet is that the person you play that role with most often is with somebody nearest and dearest to you. In my case, my wife. So I don't play the persecutor very often with anybody, except with Marcella, where I have a fine line in subtle, passive-aggressive, persecutorial, micromanagerial patterns of behavior, which are terrible and embarrassing to admit, but true, they're there. So it's useful to start seeing this as a framework for how you behave. What we're doing here is looking at some of the patterns of the dark side of coaching, the dark side of you as a coach, and starting to see, by seeing them and owning them and admitting them, we can start integrating them so they become part of us. We can become whole rather than good. And in becoming whole rather than good, we start to be able to better serve not just our clients, but all of those in our lives, our family, our friends, our lovers, our children, ourselves. Now, we've got a final slide for you, and then I'm going to open it up for questions led by Ben. But what I'd like you to do is, and you see we end where we begin with Darth. Luke, what was most useful for you in this time we had together? We've had 20 quick minutes, 25 quick minutes. If you were to capture one thing that you wanted to remember, one thing you wanted to take away from this, one action perhaps that you'd want to take as a result of hearing me talk, what would that one thing be? And I'll ask you to write that down for me. You know what I'm doing. I'm coaching you here. And you know that writing it down makes it much more likely that it's going to stick. And what I'm going to do now is you write that down. I'm going to invite Ben back on the line. And Ben, do you want to lead us through any Q&A or anything like that for us?
I certainly will, Michael. Thank you very much for that session.
Perfect.
What would be a good strategy to get out of the triangle?
Good question. One that's almost impossible to answer in 2 minutes, but I'll tell you one really simple strategy. It's one that everybody can do. It's one that everybody's doing right now as it happens. And one of the most powerful things to do is to breathe. Because here's what's happened. When you move into the drama triangle, you actually stop breathing. You hold your breath. Right? It's part of that fight or flight brainstem moment. And in holding your breath, what immediately starts happening is you start denying your body oxygen. Oxygen starts draining from your prefrontal cortex. That's the thinking part of your brain. You start thinking even more poorly, so things become more black and white, less ambiguous. You move even more into the fight or flight mode. And actually what you're becoming, you're in a bit of a vicious circle here. Stepping back, taking a breath, can actually then reoxygenate your blood, reoxygenate your brain, and help you actually get a little more sophisticated point of view about what's really happening around this. There are a bunch of other strategies, Ben. I want to get into those for sure on the June 17th call.
Okay, awesome. You've made my job very hard, Michael, by asking people to post their how their all of their biggest learnings, because there's just hundreds of them. Okay, and I'm trying to find the questions. Okay, the, okay. In this model, are there any positive points of view?
Great question. So here's what I would say. The answer is yes, there is, but if you like, outside the model. So it's not like one of these roles is better than the other. It's not like some combination of these roles is better than the others. It's not like you're going, I'm striving to be exactly 1/3 persecutor, 1/3 rescuer, 1/3 victim. What this is a model of dysfunction. What you're looking to do is break this model and get out of this model and stay out of this model for as long as you can until you fall back into the model again, which is what will happen. And to pull it back to transactional analysis and that language, what the type of relationship that exists outside this model is an adult-to-adult relationship. Here's one way of defining an adult-to-adult relationship. It is the willingness to ask for what you want, knowing that the answer may be no. The willingness to ask for what you want, knowing that the answer may be no. And here's what I'd say. Many of us do a poor job of knowing what we want. You know, as coaches, one of the most powerful questions you can ask is, so what do you want? Because it almost always makes people into goldfish, you know, kind of blinking a bit and kind of moving their mouths up and down because they're trying to figure it out. So we don't do a good job at understanding what we want, sitting with that need, getting clear on that. We don't always do a good job at asking for what we want. We don't do a good job at saying no to requests that we can't fulfill. We don't do a good job at hearing no if we've made a request and the person said, I can't help you with that. So ask for what you want, knowing that the answer may be no, lies at the foundation of creating an adult-to-adult relationship, which is the pattern of behavior that exists outside this dysfunctional drama triangle.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael. Question here. Where do you see being indignant fitting into this triangle?
That's a really good question. So by indignant, I think you mean kind of outraged or angry or upset. This is not at all to lessen the feelings you have or to say those feelings are illegitimate. Um, One of the key things is that when you're in the drama triangle, you're not at choice as to how you deliver that feeling or deliver that emotion or deliver that response. It's a reaction rather than mindfulness. So what differentiates behavior that's inside the drama triangle and outside the drama triangle is two things. One is choice. Am I choosing to behave like this or not? And the second is intention, which is why am I doing this? What, for the purpose of what am I doing this? So being indignant can be done in a way that, and you all know this as coaches, in a way where you own the feeling, where you don't blame the other person for that feeling, and in a way that kind of transmits the emotional truth of how you are and what you want. Or being indignant can be used in a way of basically a weapon, which is to shame the other person, humiliate the other person, bully the other person. I can imagine that being indignant could be very much an emotion associated with a persecutor in some circumstances. So the feelings are neutral, but your kind of intention and your mindfulness behind it determines whether you're in the drama triangle or not. That's a great question, though. Thank you.
Okay, perhaps one final question. Has it been useful to bring this model to clients' attention, or is there a risk of them getting into their head or thinking mode?
Yeah. Oh, that's a lovely question. I do bring this to my clients' attention all the time, in part because one of my firm philosophies about being a coach and a facilitator is to be a lazy coach. So I will often do something like this. I will sketch this out on a piece of paper. If I'm with the person, or I ask them to sketch it out on a piece of paper, and I'll say to them, okay, so I'll explain the model in really basic steps to them. And I'll go, great, so let me ask you, this situation we're talking about, what role do you think they're playing in this situation at the moment? And they will, they'll talk about the third party, and they'll talk about that for a bit and have a chance to get that off their chest. And then I'll go, so what role do you think you're playing in this? Because, you're both playing roles, so what's your role in this? And they'll go, oh, well, it's probably this. I'm like, great. And how does it feel to be playing this role? What's that like in your body? And that's one way of shifting them from the head into the body. But absolutely, one of the things that I think is a great approach in general for coaches is teach your clients the models you're using, then teach them how to use the model so that you become increasingly redundant and they get to coach themselves. Because what happens then is you get to take your coaching to the next level, to even more subtle and sophisticated issues, because they become increasingly self-sufficient.
Awesome. Thank you very much. A great way to close off. Um, Okie dokie, Michael. This is as you can see on the screen right now. We can see the Facebook wall. Very exciting. And please feel free to jump onto Facebook and post your questions and comments. Michael, can you scroll up a little bit on
Oh,
the
sorry.
on your page?
I forgot I was sharing my thing. I'm so sorry. I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I haven't looked at this for too long, and I was getting into it. So
Yeah, no worries.
here we go. I'm sorry about that. Here we go. There I am. God,
Yeah,
what a good-looking man I
yeah,
am.
there he is. Okay, so if you could jump on the Facebook wall, there's a great place there. You can post your comments underneath, where you can see Michael there. Also, feel free to post them anywhere else on the wall, but that's a good spot in there in the little comment section.
Perfect.
You will get. I'm sure Michael will have a little bit of interaction. You can
For sure.
interact with the presenter himself. Ask him
Exactly.
questions. Let's get some debate going. If there's anything you'd like to challenge or anything you'd like to add or any other perspectives, or if you had any questions that were not answered, then please jump on it. Now, here's a little warning before we go, guys. We have 1 week left of the early bird pricing. So if you are considering attending WBEX, which most of you are, which is awesome, bear in mind that the price rises by $400 next week. So be sure to jump on and get your ticket for $297 versus $697. Okay, cool. Um, Guys, thank you very much for joining us for today, and a huge thank you to Michael for another spectacular session.
Thanks, Ben.
Some really great feedback that I'm receiving here. So please post that onto the Facebook wall as well. We love to see that. Um, and without further ado, I'm going to call this session to an end. I believe we have one final session tomorrow. In fact, we have Brendan Bouchard, which if you're not familiar with Brendan Bouchard,
Oh,
um,
he's good.
he's pretty good. Yeah, he's done some pretty amazing stuff around online marketing and how to build funnels online and how to build an online coaching business. He's gone from relatively unknown to having an eight-figure coaching business at eight figures. I think he's about $15 million at the moment. In a very short amount of time, and you can kind of get an idea of how you can do that. And I've got a lot of clients that I've referred through to myself,
Mm.
who've done his program and just got some massive value from it. So please take the time to jump into that. And also, you'll receive your one-click registration links later today for next week's sessions, and there's some super sessions there to look forward to. So, without further ado, everyone have a wonderful day, whether you're at the start, the middle, or the end of it. And I will look forward to you joining us tomorrow and next week. And I will say goodbye. And thank you once again, Michael, for a rock and roll session. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, Ben.